your goal and stick fucking to it. You wishy-washy motherfuckers. I can't fucking stand you.
I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time, and with the time, and I don't have time for this, and I don't have that. You have time. You make the time.
And now, welcome to the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by FitnessInformant.com.
While you sitting down, bitch, about how I triple my fan base, net worth bench. Can't say there's worse, bitch. Do something, fuck it, I prove something. Don't switch up. All
right, guys, welcome inside the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. I'm your host, FitnessInformant.com President Ryan Buckeye. Thanks for stopping by to check out episode 7, featuring hypertrophy coach Joe Bennet. For those who don't know hypertrophy coach Joe Bennet is probably one of the most respected trainers on the planet. He has trained a multitude of athletes. He's the head trainer for Redcon 1. He trained with Flex Lewis. He also trains Dave Bautista, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But most people, if you're not a wrestling fan, know him as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. He is a Hollywood actor. He is a big man. A hypertrophy coach Joe Bennet also used to be with BPAC back in the day, and we discussed that. I wouldn't call it a breakup, but the separation from BPAC and him venturing out and doing his own thing outside Pukowski's M140 gym. So there's a lot of good conversation with Joe. Joe's a good dude, intelligent man, like a very intelligent man. If you are not following Joe on Instagram at hypertrophy coach, you need to do so, and you need to run. Don't walk to follow Joe, because he will educate you. He will teach you things that you've never known before. But you listen to what he says on his Instagram account, you follow along, and you just become a better person in the gym for it. You become more cognizant of what you're doing, the angles that you're attacking your muscles, the tempo in which you're doing your lifts, etc. There's a lot that Joe talks about. Now, not all of what Joe discusses and teaches will resonate with you. You may not agree with everything. He does take a very scientific approach. And if you've listened to the Branch Warren episode, Branch talks about just lifting heavy and lifting hard. There's no science needed in that. That is how he got big. That's how Ronnie Coleman got big. And yes, I think there's a happy medium between the two. Lifting heavy weights and attacking muscles at different angles, mixing things up, shocking the system, if you will. And Joe does a lot of that in terms of his teachings and what he knows. Now, the cool thing about Joe, and you guys will hear this on the episode tonight or today, is that he will talk about that he still goes and pays to go to seminars to keep continual learning. Now, I had mentioned something on our Self-Made Barbell Brigade. It's a Facebook page. It's a Facebook group off of the Fitness Informant Facebook page, where you're not going to hire somebody to give you financial advice who's broke. Why would you do that? Why would you trust somebody who has absolutely not a dime to their name to let you and teach you how to save money, right? And the same thing goes as said, why would you hire a personal trainer or somebody who trains fitness when they themselves don't do exactly what they tell others to do? Meaning they don't look the part. They're a walking billboard for themselves. You need to do that. And Joe talks about that. And we talked about that with Ronnie Coleman in episode 1. And I think this is a really good culmination of what that means. Is Joe is so accomplished. He's such an accomplished trainer, yet he still pays for seminars. He still pays for educational classes to get better, to become better at his craft and become the best damn trainer that he possibly can be in this business. And that says something. So for those of you out there who are listening, who are excited to hear Joe and excited to get the knowledge soak, the knowledge dump from Joe during this podcast, also know this, make sure you're out there seeking opportunities outside the gym, inside the classroom, to better yourself and better your training techniques, because just because something works for you or worked for client 123, it doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So keep expanding your database up here in your noggin and keep getting better at the training business. Before we hop into Joe, we typically would have Stacks come on, talk about the happenings in the supplement industry. A couple things I actually want to talk about. Stacks not going to be on this episode. Is one, the rebrand over at Spur Nutrition. Now, Spur Nutrition, one of our gold level sponsors for our 8-week, $8,000 transformation challenge, which we're exactly halfway through right now, and we're killing it. Everybody's doing such a good job, but their rebrand from a CPG point of view, which is a consumer packaged goods point of view, it was one of the best things that this company did because they were so discombobulated across their SKUs, across their UPCs, their units, their products, however you recognize that. Meaning that Kraken looked one way, Sparta Way looked another way, Hydra Shed looked a completely another way. Like Hydra Shed was white, Kraken was black, Sparta Way was like double, and then there are some other fat burners that they had, and their muscle builders looked something else. Everything was disconnected. Now they're rebranding. Everything is going to be connected, and they're releasing a Kraken Black series, which is going to be awesome. And for those who are familiar with fitnessinformant.com, know that Kraken, the OG, the one with DMHA, was our number one rated pre-workout for a long time. They reformulated that earlier this year in 2018 to remove DMHA and add in some other things like Vaso-6 and cocoa butyral and some other state-of-the-art sort of cutting-edge ingredients that still made the product good, but maybe it just took a slight step back to the original OG Kraken. So Kraken Black is going to be a higher stimulant product, what the people have been craving. That will be coming from Sparta Nutrition, and we should have some exclusive reviews right here. And I shouldn't say exclusive. I'm sure a lot of people will get a chance to test it, but we will have a chance to review that here at Fitness Informant along with some other SKUs. They're dropping 10 new items in their rebrand. Sparta Nutrition deserves a shout out. The brothers over there running that company are doing a fantastic job. They're one of our most trusted brands for a reason. And ultimately, we love them for being a huge sponsor in our $8,000 8-week transformation challenge. Redcon 1, also a gold level sponsor in the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge, was just published in Military Times, meaning like Navy, Marine, Army. They have magazines. They published an advertisement in these magazines. And I told Aaron this straight out. Aaron was a guest on this podcast before, that I think that their partnership with the U.S. military is one of the most genius things that you can do because, A, you're offering something to these men and women who obviously want to work out, be in the best shape they can be so they can serve and protect us here on the homeland. They're offering them high-quality supplements at a discounted price. You're attaching yourself to an organization that is going to be beneficial, and it fits with the brand. Redcon 1 fits in with that U.S. military brand presence. So it's a win-win-win. Congratulations to Aaron, the Redcon 1 team, for everything that they're doing over in the military. Congratulations with the Vitamin Shop launch. They're debuting in other retail locations, and they're growing at an exponential pace. I'm not sure if I've seen a company grow as quickly as Redcon 1, and it's been fascinating to watch from the outset. So congratulations over there to Aaron Singerman. A lot of stuff coming up. We are exactly a month and a half away from the 2018 Mr. Olympia. I've been told from the fine folks over at NutraBio, again, another gold level sponsor, the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge, that they are going to be dropping some exciting stuff at the 2018 Olympia. So as soon as I get my hands on that information, I will bring that back to you all here at the Be Informed Live Fit podcast, fitnessinformant.com, our Facebook page, our Instagram page. But the NutraBio folks, who won our 2017 Brand of the Year for a reason, coming out, I think, with some new stuff around the Olympia. So it'll be exciting to see what comes from those guys and gals, and Mark Glazer, a former guest here on this show as well, on what they are bringing at the Olympia. And at the Olympia, a lot of stuff is going to happen. A lot of things are going to be debuted. Inspired Nutraceuticals, a company who had supported us since day one. Actually, here's a sneak peek. They sent me, I'm not going to turn it around, but a new version of their Devastate White Cut, a new version that's not out yet. I get to beta test it. This is a flavor that's not even going to be released for like 8 months. And I think this might be released around the Olympia time, is what Inspired's been teasing on their Instagram and Facebook pages. I'm actually going to run this. By the time you all get this podcast, I will have already ran this in the gym. I will be posting over at Facebook, posting at Instagram, my thoughts on this. Now, Chris Waldron, the CEO of Inspired Nutraceuticals, told me, don't take the whole packet, Ryan. Take 3/4 of this packet. And for those watching on YouTube, you can see the packet size. It says the name. It says it's 2 servings, 12 ounces of water. I'm going to take the whole thing. So spoiler alert. I guess this isn't a spoiler because by the time you listen to this, like I said, I've already taken this. I'm going to take this whole thing, and I'm going to tell Chris Waldron I'm going to take this whole thing because I deserve to take this whole thing, and really, really able to give this a quick hit review over at our social media pages and to see if this is really as good as Chris has made it out to be. Now, Chris has made some phenomenal products before. White Cut, the original, and once upon a time was the #1 rated pre-workout at fitnessinformant.com as well. So it'll be very, very interesting from that standpoint to see how this does. Ember, which is their new heat reserve or their fat-burning pre-workout, boom, just got it this week, and those watching on YouTube can see it. This is a very interesting pre-workout is what they're going to call it, and I agree with it because there's going to be dynamine, there's caffeine, and there's some focus-enhancing ingredients in this, like choline bitterate. Let's see what else is this. You got raloserine, which is alpha-yohimbine, which is going to be a fat burner. You got L-carnitine at 3,000 milligrams, 3 grams for 2 scoops. Ashwagandha extract, which is the KSM 66 at 600 milligrams, dandelion extract, cocoa extract, which is cocoa butyrol at 100 milligrams. This is a very, very unique, cool ingredient label. Histamine is in this as well. Theobromine, synephrine. There's a lot of really, really big stimulants in terms of fat burning, which is going to provide a hell of energy. It's technically 40 servings, but if you take 2 scoops here, if you're looking on YouTube, it can turn down to 20 servings. I'm going to roll this into 20 servings. It's going to help during my cut for the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge. So stoked about that. I also started running here, and I'm not running this yet, by the way. I'm going to start running this Ember very soon. But I did start running this week at Blood Shred, the War Edition. Now, we reviewed the Blood Shred Raw Edition at fitnessinformant.com from Olympus Labs, who is one of our awesome sponsors of the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge as well. But right now, I'm doing a mini 4-week cut. So I did a 4-week bulk to start this, which if you're watching on YouTube, I physically look bigger, I feel better. But now I'm doing a cut, tighten up a little bit, so that way at the end of week 8, August 31st, I am looking as tight as I can be and as jacked as I can be. So starting the Blood Shred, the War Edition, a full review, fitnessinformant.com will come after that. I'm currently right now for my pre-workout running Iron Brothers pre-workout V2, but the fine folks over at Iron Brothers Supplement sent me the OG, the DMHA version that's available over at sups.com. And if you shop sups.com, use our promo code Informant, save 5% off your entire order. All orders over $59 will ship absolutely free, and they ship quickly. But this has 4 grams of citrulline, 3.2 beta-alanine, 2.7 betaine, 1 gram of taurine, 225 milligrams of caffeine, 150 milligrams of DMHA, 50 milligrams of theobromine, biopurine at 10 milligrams, alpha-yohimbine at 2 milligrams, and 2 club moss extract at 200 micrograms. So this will be on the list too. There's a lot of pre-workouts here. A couple of them I got sent this week that we're going to be excited to hop on, try, and do the full in-depth review over at fitnessinformant.com. Last point before we shoot it over to Joe, the hypertrophy coach, and talk about his career and talk about his wisdom and walk away being a better version of ourselves, because that is really what we encourage here at the Be Informed Live Fit podcast is come on here, get informed, go back and apply the principles and apply the learnings from this podcast into your fitness lifestyle and become a better version of yourself. So, I'm a big dude. I work out 6-7 days a week, depending on how I'm feeling, but definitely a minimum of 6 days a week. We take a lot of supplements. People listening to this probably do. People that follow us on our Facebook page, Instagram page, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever it might be. We take a lot of supplements. Half the time, these supplements are really directed towards our muscle wellness, you could say, by getting bigger, by trying to become in an anabolic state, to grow, to increase muscle protein synthesis, to decrease DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. But one thing that sometimes is forgotten is our general overall health, and well-being. And things like fish oil, omega-3, 6, 9s, things like probiotics, things like liver and heart support are extremely important for us to be cognizant of, because our heart is our number one organ. Like, this is our thing. Our heart and our brain are our 2 most important organs in our body. And if we don't take care of that, then what are we doing? What does it matter if we're 215 pounds and fucking jacked out of our mind? You want to be able to live a long, healthy life. And to do that, you need to have solid cardiovascular health, your liver health, especially those of us who take a lot of protein and train extremely hard. You need to take something for your liver and help your liver and keep those liver enzymes into a healthy, normal state. Here's a brand that I'm a big fan of, AD Wellness. Now, we don't have any reviews from Anabolic Designs over at fitnessinformant.com right now, but their health series, companies. I'm currently taking Heart Plus and Liver Plus from this company. Why? Because I want to live a long time. I'm going to be expecting my first child here within a month from this podcast when this drops. My goal is to be obviously the most healthy version of myself for my family first and foremost, and that includes my future baby boy or baby girl that will be coming into this world. And it also just helps you overall feel better. I mean, if you're taking in 250 grams of protein per day, that's a lot for the human body to process, digest, convert, and use, break down into the amino acids, and your liver does all of that. So something like liver health, and this actually includes kidney support too, is extremely important. Now, cardiovascular health in general is just super important. Sometimes those of us who train extremely hard take supplements. Our blood pressure can be higher than where it probably should be. Ultimately, there has been studies to prove that AD Wellness Heart Plus actually can bring your cholesterol levels back into a healthy state, and lower the bad cholesterol and up the positive cholesterol. So that's just a PSA from me here at Fitness Informant. Take care of your overall health and well-being. One place you can start, we just signed a partnership with directlabs.com. So go to directlabs.com/fitnessinformant. There's actually going to be pre-populated tests there if you're a male in terms of what tests, blood tests that we recommend you get. Find out what your free and total testosterone is. Find out what your cortisol levels are. Find out what your estrogen levels are. Find out what your lutein hormone, your LH is, and your FSH. There's a bunch of different hormone panels that you can get as a male that I guarantee most of you listening to this podcast have probably never done. I get blood work done regularly. I want to make sure my testosterone levels are in the normal range because low testosterone is nothing to fuck around with, people. That's dangerous, all right? It affects your attitude. It affects how you feel. It can affect your family life. It can affect your job at your workplace. It can affect your income. So just make sure you take care of yourself before you run out and buy a testosterone boosting supplement or something like that. Know that you need that shit first before you go and spend $50-$60 on a test booster, because it makes zero sense to go out and spend money on something if you have no clue if you actually need it or not. I'll wrap this up. Again, a big shout out to all of our sponsors in the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge, specifically our gold level sponsors, which is Blackstone Labs, Redcon One, Spartan Nutrition, NutriBio Labs, and MTS Nutrition. Mark Lobline are also dropping a protein bar. That's exclusive news that came out on Stacked. I actually knew about this. Mark told me when we worked out that he was dropping a protein bar, so super excited about that. Nutrex Research coming out with their new Lipo 6 Dynamic Series. They are a silver level sponsor of ours. You can go to Nutrex.com, use promo code Informant, and save 10% off over at their website. We have a lot of great discounts for you all. FitnessInformant.com has a big section for supplement deals. Check that out. And our bronze level sponsors, they're all phenomenal, whether it be Core, America Labs, Jabra, Cage Muscle, Ironing Fitness, Olympus Labs. There's just a bunch of Ronnie Coleman Signature Series. These are really, really good brands that we like to work with. And the winners of the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge are going to be reaping in the benefits. Everybody's kicking ass in the $8,000 8-week transformation challenge. I'm stoked about them. I'm stoked about the transformations that people have made so far in these 4 weeks, including my own. During my 4-week bulk, now we're on a 4-week cut. You saw some of the supplements that I will be look forward to incorporating into my supplement regime. There's going to be some big giveaways at Fitness Informant's Facebook page and Instagram page coming up soon. So when this episode drops on Tuesday, just make sure if you're not already doing so, follow us at Facebook. It's facebook.com/fitnessinformant, twitter.com/fitinformant, instagram.com/fitinformant, or at fitinformant on Instagram and Twitter. It's fitinformant on Snapchat as well. We regularly post there, and obviously the official website, fitnessinformant.com. I'm going to shut up, sign off. I will let you all hear from the man himself, the wise man, the man who knows a lot about everything in this business, and the man that you need to open your ears with and absorb as much knowledge as possible. This will be the hypertrophy coach, Joe Bennet.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been will be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
Don't you hate when your protein powder doesn't mix properly? Redcon One's 100% whey isolate, isotope, tastes great, is the absolute highest quality, and of course, mixes well. No shaking required.
Watching on YouTube, you see the man across the screen from me. If you're listening, you're going to have to hear his voice soon. But that beard is just... I mentioned I was going to bring this up because I saw you at the Olympia last year. We met and we were at the Lift Factory. And this thing is like... You're like the Axeman now, dude. Look at this thing.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It's taken on a life of its own. I think there's a lot of people that are more familiar with my beard than my physique or even my qualities as a coach. So, I don't really know what to make of it.
Well, it's unreal. I mean, you could be a walking advertisement for some sort of beard oil company for sure. And I'm trying to grow mine. Like I knew you were coming on, so I was like, I'm gonna keep growing it. And I mean, this is what I got, and this is probably like a month and a half, so it's the best I got going.
Yeah.
What's new, dude? What's good?
Nothing, man. Just living life, doing my thing, and coaching family, but not in that order. Family, coaching, and
If people listening for the first time aren't familiar with you, in like a sentence, how would you describe yourself?
Sentence. I don't think I'm capable of doing that. I'll try and keep it concise, which it doesn't come concise. I definitely consider myself, a husband and a father first, and then a coach, a trainer second. So I've been super passionate, same as everybody else. Not everybody else, but the same as a lot of people since I was probably 15. Really got into bodybuilding first. That was my first. I got in through sports, and then very quickly more interested in working out than I was in sports. And, then got into bodybuilding, and then in college got introduced to personal training, and then kind of fell into it a little bit. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after college, and I basically had somebody kind of recruit me to work for their gym and said they'd really like to have me. And I honestly didn't think you could make a profession of training. I didn't have a whole lot of respect for the profession, same as kind of everybody else, unfortunately. And that's the profession's fault, no one else's. And then figured out real fast you could make a living at it. So I've been training people, in person. I was really full-time trained part-time in college from 20 to 22, then full-time from 22 through about 32. And just in the past, year or two, I've kind of started to go a little bit more part-time. And now I only really work with, one or two clients, kind of what I consider full-time. And then the rest is like I have people coming in town to train and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, if I say the term hypertrophy coach, most people know exactly who that is because it's your Instagram handle. You're very, very active on social media. When I say the name Joe Bennet, I'm not sure if many people even know your real name. I think you just you have like this alias, and it's your website, and it's everything that everybody knows about you.
Yeah.
I mean, you coined it for yourself. Nobody had it in the profession. Is that tell me how that came about?
Honestly, it's funny, man. I had no idea what I did. I really honestly mean this. I really had no idea like what social media entailed. I mean, I'm not living under a rock. I didn't know that existed, but I think my Instagram's only maybe like 2.5 years old. I've only been doing my site for a year and a half. So I trained for 10 years, and then I just had to some good, positive, encouraging people to like just start putting information out there. You don't even have to know what you're going to do. Just put it out there. So I remember I heard this story where I'd done a lot of certifications and stuff, more like strength coach certifications, a lot through Charles Falkman, who I have a huge amount of respect for. And I kind of heard the story through him when strength coaches coined the term strength coach. For the reason everyone was trainers up to then. There was like fitness specialists and then there were trainers. And so there are all these strength coaches that worked with professional athletes and stuff, and they were being called trainers, like somebody that was working, at a Gold's Gym or something, training 80-year-old ladies. So they said, we're not trainers. We've got to make a term that accurately describes what they do. So that's where the term strength coach came from. Whoever the hell made that up, probably in the 70s. And so that was kind of my stem for it. It's like, well, I'm not a strength coach. I don't work with athletes in the sense of, professional sports or mainstream stuff, baseball, football, all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, I sure don't do what normal trainers do necessarily with my main demographic. So that's where it just came from. I mean, obviously hypertrophy in our realm deals with muscle growth, and that's pretty much exclusively, what I do at this point in time. That's like we were speaking earlier. I've kind of got away even a little bit from contest prep stuff. Well, that's a passion of mine. There's too much other stuff that goes into it that I'm not passionate about. So I just like training. I like helping people, add pounds of muscle to their body and look better, feel better, in whatever capacity that is. Which I tend to like working with more, higher level or elite people. Same as any coach, where that's where you tend to gravitate to is just a passion. But I mean, training. I mean, I've helped, paraplegics and 88-plus-year-old people, and if you can figure out how to appropriately work with those bodies, working with pro bodybuilders and things like that in its own way, it helps. It helps with that challenge as well too. So
let's rewind the clock for a second. You said that you got into bodybuilding first at a young age, went to college, but didn't have a lot of respect for the industry. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I mean, honestly, I was same as a lot of people, unfortunately. I'd say for sure, when I was maybe 15 through 18, I really wanted to learn a lot, and I had a lot of pretty good people influencing me around. I was the same person. I just read every magazine, and I would listen to everybody who would talk to me. And then probably by the time I was 18, it was probably the combination of high testosterone and just, being ego-driven and an asshole and too many areas of life. I kind of thought I knew what I was talking about. So 18 through 22, I mean, I did, in retrospect, compared to other 18 or 22-year-olds, I might have known more than most of them, but I still didn't know shit, obviously. And, so there's a point in time there when trainers that I had seen at that point in time, I just feel like these guys don't know what they're doing. I didn't have a whole lot of respect for them. I didn't have the perspective where, unfortunately, and I say this as a trainer, 95% of trainers probably aren't great. So I saw a lot of those trainers. And again, that combined with a big ego and being an asshole, I really didn't have a whole lot of respect for the profession. I met some great people. I went to the University of Florida, and some great people both on the strength and conditioning side and the recreational strength and conditioning side. And that's when my brain started at least shift to like, oh wow, there's people that know. Everybody I was introduced to that ran that program and stuff knew so much more than I did. And that's when I started training and started like getting my head on the right way a little bit more. And then when I was 22 and kind of worked first in like a big box gym for a long period of time, that's when I got introduced to people that really knew how to manage the business of training. So I didn't really understand, like, obviously, like, with one, this long journey of actually hopefully progressing my skill set, combined with I got around a bunch of great people that really, really knew the business of personal training well. And I say the first few years of personal training, I mean, probably 3 or 4 years of personal training, I didn't step up my game from a knowledge standpoint or a skill set a whole lot, but I really got in with like understanding the business of personal training. So it was first people that opened my eyes to, okay, you can actually make a business out of this, just being professional and knowing how to talk to people and things that will make you successful in a lot of businesses. And then that combined with, continually trying to be a better trainer, and it opened a lot of doors for, okay, well, what exactly do I want to do with this, thing? So it took a little bit of both ends. I think it took me, I needed to evolve and get in the right place where I was open to realize you could make a profession at it. And then I needed to get around the right people. So it's kind of the ways lots of things work in life. So
I've heard you say on your Instagram stories before that you're not really a people person, which is funny because the profession that you're in, I mean, you're working directly one-on-one with people. So how does that work? Like, how does that dynamic work for you? And are you still kind of uncomfortable working with people every now and then?
Yeah, no, I mean, I joke that I don't like people as a whole.
Sure.
But I like individuals generally when I get to know them. And like I said, honestly, that's kind of both sides. I mean, it's really easy to sit back and like look at society and be like, oh my God, our society's shit, between how concerned everyone is with being entitled, they're politically correct and all that kind of stuff. So there's that general observation of, and again, it's who's perpetuating all that information and vision we're getting of current society has obviously a lot to do with it. So one is just the general observation that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on out there, and I like to stay within my bubble, so which is like my family and my close group of friends. But that being said, at the same time, when I get to know someone as an individual person, I never had a problem with that when I was training. You know, like I'd meet someone and I joke, I feel like I'm an awkward, weird person or something anyway, and I come off strange, and I don't know what kind of vibes I give off. So it's like half I'd be worried about this person, who knows what the hell they think of me. But that's part of training. It's like once I would actually sit one-on-one and talk with someone and kind of break the ice, and you find all these, you know, commonalities of we're all just humans and we all have this same and shared life experience. And especially, it's cliche, but as I get older and, you know, and I'm married and I have kids and I'm slowly trying to turn into an adult, you find a lot more common ground with people. And so that's the same thing, man. It's like, so me saying that stems from, you know, that just kind of global observation and me internally thinking I'm weird, and those two things not mixing. But when I actually get to know people on a one-on-one basis, I like people. And especially that's the nice thing. I've overall, you know, because I've been in the industry for a long time, but I've only been more in like the big, whatever you want to call it, mainstream industry, and meeting more, you know, people that are big names in our industry. And overall, man, I'm like really been pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's like, you know, you're in this group of like, meatheads are weird as hell. Like if you just write what we like on paper, we're just weird people, man. We're extremely strange. And we have all that commonality. Like when meatheads get together, it's like we're the bunch of weirdos. They're like, oh yeah, we're all weird together. So I found it great, actually, honestly. I mean, I've made some really close friends and stuff in the industry that are obviously really about the same thing. And then also are lots of people that are fathers and husbands and, you know, have families and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where that stems from. But in all honesty, I mean, I think any trainer, you know, needs to come to the realization when I was 22 or whatever, and I'm starting to work with, you know, let's just call it the extreme end for me. I'm working with a middle-aged or elderly woman.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell do I know about that person? What do I know about their mindset or where they're at? I still don't know anything about that, right? Like if you're asking me, hey, tell you what it's like to be a 65-year-old woman, like nobody wants to listen to that because I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But having worked with a bunch of people and actually listening what they have to say and what their, you know, emotional concerns are and drivers and motivation, you know, that's a big part of learning the business of being a personal trainer is really listening to people and kind of trying to get yourself in their shoes and empathizing with where they're at. So that was a big skill set for me to learn. I mean, it's just from not having much in common, for them not wanting to talk to me as much as I felt weird talking to them, you know, and trying to actually, you know, learn how to find that common ground and stuff. So that's all been, again, a big evolution of me, you know, and then finding a lot of common ground with a lot of the same people in the industry. So
you mentioned earlier that you kind of you learned the business aspect of training more, and I think that's a super important part because we're gonna have a lot of trainers listening to the show. And what's in terms of the actual business and the financials of running a PT business or a training business, like what have you found to be one of the most important things that you learned about that aspect?
Man, to be honest, is you know, there's probably, I'll get to the 95% in a minute. You know, 5% of it is things that are specific to the industry. Honestly, if we're just looking at success, how can I be in the top 5% of the industry? I think most people would define that as success. You know, the icing on the cake isn't it. I mean, the 95% of stuff that makes someone better is stuff that would make you successful in any industry, in my opinion, or in any profession, because again, it might just be, you know, it's a human trait, I think, where we just look at previous generations and like, hey, they were better and we're getting worse. And it seems like that. It's like work ethic is disappearing. I joke that trainers as a group of human beings are extra weird, again, including myself in that, because, you know, there's our profession is more physical driven. Our profession is more, I joke that for whatever reason, whether it's natural or enhanced, it's a group of hormonally enhanced individuals as well too. So you get all these alpha males and alpha females together in a job, and they're just a bunch of weirdos. You know, again, myself included. So I'm not picking on anyone except myself. So it just seems like general professionalism and how to communicate with people and conduct yourself are just really, really missing. So I mean, even trainers like, you know, I was amazed when all the trainers worked with people that wouldn't be on time for sessions, people that didn't want to work long hours, people that didn't want to work early in the morning. I mean, I tell people like 80% of your income is made like before 8 a.m. and, you know, after 6 p.m. And it's like people don't want to get up early. I'm like, I can't tell you how much money I made between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. just because other trainers were lazy at first, not because I'm a better trainer, because I was willing to work then. So some of it's that. I mean, it's like, you know, if you can just know how to look presentable, act presentable, be on time, be professional. And then on top of that, like, be likable. That's starting to get into the icing on the cake, where it's like you want people to, obviously you don't want to injure people. We're getting into the skill set of it. You want to provide a good service, but you want to leave people where it's like they go through a whole session and they're in a good mood because they were hanging out with you for an hour. And trainers, like, can you honestly deliver that? That doesn't necessarily have to do every single time with, was it an amazing workout? Did they set PRs? Did they feel physically and emotionally, whatever, amazing? No. But did they leave the session feeling better emotionally than they did before? And so those few things, if trainers actually do that stuff, everybody looks at the fancy stuff. So it's like, you look at Instagram, you look at shit that I put out. I joke that it's like, it's so easy to take stuff out of context. I honestly try and have a mix of saying, here's where this comes in play. So stuff that can just hopefully maybe help someone as a person, and then maybe help someone as a skill set as well too. But everything's out of context. So you look at all these people on Instagram, and you're looking at all the icing on the cake stuff. There's not a whole lot of people putting out good information as far as, how do I just do the basics of being a good trainer first? And social media is the perfect example. You have trainers putting half their time into social media, when, again, the reason their business isn't successful is because they should be putting 90% of their time into something else. So that's just another example of, people are, all that stuff, like being a great trainer and, getting 10, 20 certifications is great. It's stuff that I personally invest in and do. But you can't put the cart ahead of the horse. You got to get things in the right order first. So.
You mentioned social media, and obviously it's an avenue that people can share their voice, share their Instagram videos, and everybody's a goddamn expert, it seems like, when it comes to releasing, whether it be form, whatever. How has social media and like online coaching changed the profession, in your opinion?
Yeah. Man, it's one of those things that's really, I'm sure whenever, TV got really popular, and everybody had a TV in their house, people would be like, look, TV's the decay of society. Everybody just stares at the TV now, and TVs are ruining people's lives. So there's some of that where social media is an easy target because lots of people spend lots of time looking at their phone. And we're just looking at a different screen now. So I don't think it in and of itself is wrong. I think there's a lot of awesome things about it, man. I honestly, there's a ton of people that give like real glimpses into what their actual day entails. If you're looking at like high-end coaches and people with great information, there's tons of people that put out amazing stuff. And I do the same as everybody else. Like some coaches and people that I'm friends with, they might have ebooks, they might have classes and courses, but I always start with social media. Like I can get a lot of great information from social media just like everybody else. So overall, it's the same as anything in life. It's what you make of it. And I think overall, it's a very positive thing. It's a very good thing. And there's some people obviously I don't think they've got their brain wrapped around what to do with this good thing or how to appropriately invest their time still. So, it's a great place now for people coming up and trying to get better. It's very cool because you can pinpoint the things that you think are interesting. You can follow the people that you really want to be like. And then if that's very interesting to you, you can go deeper. And what else do they offer? Do they have a website? Do they have classes? Do they have courses? Can you intern with them? Whatever. So overall, there's a ton of really, really good stuff. I just think it's the same thing where people have been putting their time in the wrong places for a lot of time. So it's like, when a trainer would be trying to build their business, and they put 3 hours of their day into training clients, 0 hours into building their clients, and then 3 hours of the day into their own workout. It's like, if you really want to get good, you got to allocate your time to the right places. And so it can be the same thing for social media, so there's people that, in my opinion, if you actually want to be a coach, if you actually want to be a trainer, unless you have eventually thousands of hours working with bodies in front of you in person, you're just not a coach or a trainer. You're something else. If you want to be really good, a really good marketer or a really good business person, it's the same as anything else. It's like, people get confused about, you look at someone that owns a successful chain of restaurants that's a business person, you're like, oh, they must be really passionate about restaurants. And it's like, no, if they're a really good business person, they might have done a market analysis and figure out this is where there's a gap and just randomly picked whatever it was and filled in the gap. And so there's a ton of people doing that in the fitness industry as well too. They don't really know a whole lot about fitness. It might not be their passion, but they're good business people. And that's not a bad thing. It's just it can be tough when the consumer gets stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's like, am I actually going to a coach or a trainer, or am I just going to someone that's a good business person? So yeah, and honestly, I could never pick on it because it's been a great thing for me. I love training people in person. I'll always spend hours doing that. But I think every trainer has it in the back of their mind somewhere. It's like, I don't want to have to train 8 hours a day when I'm 75 years old. So, you know, if you're going to work with me in person, you know, now you're going to pay $250 an hour. But if I can reach more people and they can see information that I have for something much more affordable, it's going to be worth what they're paying for. You know, so is it going to be the same as an hour for $250? You know, probably not if you're paying $10 a month. But what you're getting for that, it reaches more people, and it's a great way to get more information. And again, it's going to be at least worth what you're paying for it. So that's amazing for me, and I think that's amazing. I mean, I pay for people's information the same way that I have a site, things like that. Where it's, if I want to get in deeper, you know, I'll pay to travel to people, I'll pay for their time specifically. But sometimes I'll use that surface stuff because that's the level of information that I need at this point in time. So it's overall, I think it's a very positive, it's a very awesome thing. I think from an individual person, from looking at a coach or looking at a trainer or someone, or looking at a consumer trying to get better, you know, the ownership or responsibility ultimately falls on them. You know, do a little bit of research. Am I working with someone that actually has, you know, testimonials, that's actually spent time with someone in person? Am I working with just a business person? Or sometimes, you know, there's some people whose business is built around, hey, I'm in good shape, that's what I did. And that's not a bad thing either, as long as you know that's what you're paying for. There are a lot of people I have a ton of respect for that might necessarily not have actually coached people in person, but they're literally openly saying, this is what worked for me, try it if you want. And people want to spend their money on that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the problem when people say, I'm a coach, I'm an expert, and they actually have 0 hours working with someone in person. You know, so it's all managing that expectation and what people are actually getting, I think. So
you guys, I mean, being trainers, you're basically a walking billboard. You're like your own piece of marketing material is what you look like. And you mentioned some people take advantage of that if they have a physique, but they maybe not know how to train people. They do it. But then you have the flip side of that, where maybe somebody actually really is knowledgeable about something but doesn't look the part. What are your thoughts? What's your opinion on trainers who don't practice what they preach?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, there's nothing black and white. Everything's, you know, shades of gray. So I think that's the exact same thing where, you know, you could never use the argument that, you know, it's who has the most information in their brain is going to be the best coach. And at the same time, it's not always who looks the physically most impressive is going to be the smartest. But there's degrees of truth to all of that, you know. So, again, we're not all Ronnie Coleman. So it's like, you know, that's the same thing for me. It's like, you know, do I have to look like Ronnie Coleman did, you know, in 2002 to be the smartest person for hypertrophy? I mean, most people have a degree of common sense that, and not to take anything away from Ronnie, I mean, from someone who's done all the things that he's done, there's a million things you could glean from him. But if he's him and maybe the hardest gainer on the planet, they might not be speaking the same language. So, you know, I think most people have an understanding of common sense that you need. I think it's good to try and push both to the highest levels that you can, you know. And so personally, I don't care how a coach looks necessarily as far as the amount of muscle or how big they are or how whatever they are, because I honestly believe not everybody wants to look like a bodybuilder, and not everyone's going to look like a bodybuilder their whole life, honestly. I mean, look at someone like, great examples in my opinion are like Jake Cutler or Dorian Yates. In my opinion, those guys look awesome. I mean, they're in incredible shape. They've come out of the sport on the other side looking great. You know, and there's ding-dongs that will be like, oh, he looked better when blah, blah, blah. Well, you're not going to be 300 pounds your whole life.
Yeah, you don't want to be.
Have a long, healthy life. You know, so I think you should look like you put effort into your body. You know, I don't think there's any reason to be overweight if you're a trainer. Again, depending on the context. Now, if you're a trainer that used to weigh 500 pounds and you're technically overweight now, weighing 250, and you're progressing, you might have to dig a little bit deeper to find where someone's effort at. So I think if people put legit effort into themselves as a trainer, they should look like they're putting effort in. So either they're moving in the right direction or they look good. But if you get a trainer that's out of shape, you know, it's for one of two things. He honestly doesn't have a good skill set. He or she does not have a good skill set. They don't know how to get themselves in good shape, or they're lazy. In which case, I don't think that's a good thing. I wouldn't want a coach that's lazy. Again, I don't care if my person competes or my person looks like Mr. Olympia, but I'm going to work with someone that's not lazy. They have the attributes that they're trying to hopefully have me have as an athlete or a coach as well too. They want me to be motivated and driven. They better be motivated and driven. And at the same time, so this is where you get those things. Then you get guys that look amazing but have never opened a book, never paid anybody a dime to get any better. And it's the same thing where I see people that literally put zero effort into the education. I mean, it's like I've done a ton of stuff, and people I think that I can always afford it or it's always easy to take time out of my schedule. And it was never that way. I could never technically afford it. I never had just extra money sitting around. I never had extra time. As a trainer, I never had times where, if I'm taking a trip that's 5 days away to go to a certification, I have to pay to get there. I have to pay to stay there. I have to pay for the certification. And I'm losing 5 days of pay along the way, not to mention I'm probably losing time with my family and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, you got to put in some degree of sacrifice and try and get better. And the scales on that too is, man, I've worked with so many people. I used Charles Pulpin as an example before. When I go and I've taken certifications taught by him, the guy's a fucking encyclopedia. I've never been around someone that has more. I mean, he's got great application as well too. So he's one of the freaks that's great at everything. But he's like an encyclopedia. He has information in his brain that his brain just works a way that mine won't work. So does that make him a better coach? Well, he's a way better coach than me, a lot of things, but it's not necessarily because of he's an encyclopedia, so it doesn't matter how hard I work, I'll probably never retain information as well as him. Does that mean that I still can't be a great coach in my own right because I can't retain information as well? My brain works well at other things. So again, sure. I think that's I hope most people kind of have that context in their brain, but maybe they don't, where it's like, you kind of got to think, is this person trying to be the smartest they can be? And is this person trying to look the best that they can look?
Right.
And realize there's a whole bunch of, if you're a brand new trainer, if you're 20 years old, there's no way you're going to have the information in your brain that you would, trying to pursue information for 20 years when you're 40 years old. But if you're in the process, if you're moving in that direction, I think that's all they can really ask from a coach is that they're trying to push both as far as they can.
Nobody gets to the level that you're at. 'Cause, I mean, you're very well respected. You're world renowned. Some people say you're one of the best trainers in the world, and I agree with those comments. But people have helped you along the way, and you've learned from many coaches. You mentioned one in particular. Yeah. Like, who are some of the biggest influential people in your life that helped you get to where you are today?
Man, I mean, there's a ton, to be honest. The names that stick out as my absolute number one, if I look at the information that is in my brain, is Tom Purvis, and he's the guy that invented resistance training specialist as a certification. And I first got exposed to his certification from another coach probably in 2006 or 7. I took his intro course taught by him in probably 2012-ish. And then since then, from the intro course, I've been working through his mastery level course, which he teaches. So as far as like my understanding of anything you hear from me, from the nuts and bolts of talking exercise profiles, strength profiles, alignment, my understanding of mechanics, which is, again, nowhere near where he's at, that's, the vast majority stem from him. It's like no coach or trainer today, invented anatomy or invented physiology or invented mechanics, so I had to gain that information somewhere. Some of it came from school and some things like that, but his understanding that I use the most today came from him. So he's been probably the number one. Paul Quinn's the guy that really opened my eyes just through courses. I'm not lucky enough to have worked one-on-one with him a whole lot, but I'm lucky enough that he's taught all the courses that I've gone through. So anybody that's taken his stuff knows what I'm talking about. The best thing I can say is it's kind of like a crash course in functional medicine, which can, depending on where you're from, might not have the best context, but the guy's got the most research-based, evidence-based, actually clinical, in the field, working with athletes, results-proven-based information I've ever seen, and stuff that's getting popular now. I mean, he honestly I took my first course with him in probably 2010 or 11, and the stuff he was talking about then is some of the stuff that I hear people talking like it's new now. So the 95% of the really cool shit, because I tell people all the time, I don't really like nutrition, I don't really like supplementation, because it's a very it's like a hot button. Everybody's so damn emotional about it. I just don't like to get involved. But the information that he provides on that, 95% of the stuff that I actually apply and produce results with athletes and myself, really came from him. So when I have coaches or trainers saying, where do I start? That's always where I push them. I said, from a training standpoint, go RTS. From a nutrition supplementation standpoint, go anything that Paul Quinn teaches himself. Paul Quinn's also great for programming. He's much more an athlete background.
Sure.
He's worked with more Olympic medal athletes and professional athletes than anyone on the planet. And then honestly, from my personal love for bodybuilding, I've had 2 or 3 really good people that I've worked with. A couple of good friends that I've had at Jasper Price, Adam Miller's coaches that I've worked with, and then Ben Pikulski is probably the single biggest influence in my bodybuilding career. I still say to this day, there's no one I've trained with, especially when we're both, actually in competition mode, that has pushed me harder, or that I've seen train harder himself. He's the guy that I learned probably 80% of the things I know about posing from. So yeah, and then honestly, the rest is I'm a big about applying to myself. So I've never actually had a coach when I compete. I've always had people help me, where it's like no pressure on them to be my coach, but I get information from them. I can ask them questions. I can just say, like, I used to have Ben all the time. I'd be 5 weeks out. I'd be like, hey, am I ahead or am I behind? And he'd be like, you're good, or pick it up, or whatever, like that kind of stuff. So I've always liked to use my body as the experiment, or the piece
why not?
And I say that's the times when I've some of it was when training on my own, in college. Literally the first time I went to a Paulkin course, applying things that I learned from him, I probably put about 15 pounds of lean tissue on in the year coming from the first time I took his course.
Wow.
And then the next progression I probably put on the most muscle was literally learning how to train hard, training with Ben. So, those are probably the most influential people. And then at the end of the day, that's one of the nicest compliments I've gotten from people that work with me. I try to be as transparent as possible as far as I joke, and it's not, I'm really not that smart. It's like if you just go to as many certifications as I go to, you're going to have to gain some information. But I'm always applying it. So again, I literally, for a good 7 or 8 years straight, I was training 60 hours of clients a week, actually 60 hours of sessions a week. I was about as full as you can get with a waiting list of clients. I've competed again 5 times myself, and anybody that ever has been around me, I train as hard as I possibly can. I'll be as pushed as hard as I can be pushed. I've never cheated on a diet. People tell me that's the nice thing is I walk the walk as much as I can actually do it. And so the things that I say about other trainers and stuff is I'll never look like Phil Heath. I'll never be Mr. Olympia. But I've never looked worse in a show. So I'm always moving forward. I'm always getting better, even if it's now to the point of diminishing returns where it's 3 to 5 pounds a year. I'll still take it if it's going in the right places. So that's the big thing I've tried to. A lot of people take all this information and they don't apply it. So I really always try and do something with the information that I'm gaining. But yeah, I'd say those are the top people that are the biggest influences for me along the way.
Well, one of the names you mentioned, so the internet's a funny place. People like to speculate all the time. You and Ben, you were at his gym, working at his gym, and then, not sure what happened, but then the internet speculated on everything, and there was all these, which is weird, because, you guys aren't on a reality TV show, all right? You're friends, and then, so the internet says one thing. Do you care to talk about what happened with you and Ben?
It's nothing. I saw Ben in the grocery store a couple of weeks ago. I've got, we've got plenty of mutual respect for each other. We're still good friends. I say that we're as friends as much as I don't do anything. So to say that he's one of my friends is I don't hang out with anybody.
Sure.
So right now it's literally, I'm my family, I'm at my gym and all that kind of stuff. No, but honestly, it's one of those things professionally. Things just didn't align. Nothing from my end and his end ever got emotional. So again, if people want a reality show, again, that's the people who are just going to speculate, and they might not really realize, in my opinion, it couldn't have been handled more professionally, where it's, we just had professional differences. We did the grown-up thing. We talked to each other in person about them lots of times. We tried to kind of get on the same page, and it just didn't work. And our last conversation that we had in a professional setting was like, hey, man, I just think I'm going to kind of do my own thing, and I just think that's where I'm at. I think it's the best for both of us, and I wish nothing but the best for your business. And he said the exact same thing to me, and every time I've talked to him or seen him since, he said, you're more than welcome to come train in the gym anytime, and that's that. So, no, there's nothing. If anybody, for me, it's completely normal. I've left every job I've been at at some point and for some reason, and none of it was, I've got good relationships with everybody that I've ever worked for. That's my, if I have a big attribute of having seen some crazy stuff in all the jobs that I've been in, from people, I don't even want to get into it, all the jobs. Working with a bunch of trainers, anyone that's worked with a bunch of trainers full time knows what I'm talking about. It's a bunch of emotional people, regardless of what emotion you want to get into. And I'm probably the least emotional person on the planet when it comes to the workplace.
Yeah.
I joke with my wife, and it's true. When I have to drop my oldest off for school in a month, I'm going to cry like a baby the whole way home, just big, ugly tears.
Yeah.
It's going to be disgusting. So I'm extremely emotional and a man-child when it comes to my family. But when it comes to work, it's work. It's people have seen me talk about it, and it's 100% true. I love what I do. I'm lucky to be passionate about it, but I work to provide for my family. So it's
exactly.
There's very few things that I'll get emotional about that are work related. So yeah, everything that happened with that, it was just, I think, time to move on and kind of do our own thing. And that was that. And like I said, between him and I, and we're personally still, we're as good as we're going to get. And
Yeah, and that's completely cool. I don't see a problem with that. I mean, professional relationships don't always work out. It's the way it is. Speaking of other professional relationships, so Avengers Affinity War is like this huge movie, and you actually have you get the chance to train one of them, right? Like Drax, Dave Bautista trained with you and actually showed you several times on Instagram. I come from the wrestling world, so I first knew Dave from wrestling days. What is it like training these higher profile, in his case, he's an actor, in other cases, maybe bodybuilders, athletes? Do you approach them any differently than you would Jane Smith, a 40-year-old mom from, well, I mean, of course you're going to approach them differently, but like your mind says you're trying to help them both equally?
Yeah. Well, so so because of this sounds bad, but it's the reality of the situation. I'm only going to work with somebody that I find fun to work with at this point in time.
Sure.
And that's not just with Dave or anybody. I mean, that's all I worked with when I was 70% of my clients when I was, I used to live in Sarasota before I was here. 70% of them were competitors or people that just wanted to look well above average. And then as I progressed and I was at MI40 for 2 or 3 years, I really didn't work with any normal people. It was all people just trying to put on as much muscle as possible. Sometimes they were competitors, sometimes whatever. So I joke with Dave, man, when I would first met him, and I never followed wrestling or anything in my entire life. I actually gained some interest in the sport when I actually watched some documentaries and things on what those guys actually go through, where, I think some people naively don't believe they don't understand the level of athlete they are, or in a lot of ways, I mean, it's they have the worst / hardest sport ever for their bodies, because in general, people want them to look like bodybuilders, but actually be able to do flips and beat the shit out of each other and do it at a high frequency for a long period of time.
With no sleep. Yeah,
and these guys are, I mean, to be honest, man, it's normal for them, but they're all broken. I mean, they've all, like, I bet there's not a guy that's in the WWE that hasn't had at least 6+ surgeries on something in their body, repairs and tears and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, what I knew about Dave, I had read more stuff on him, articles on him in like Muscle and Fitness or Flex and stuff like that. So I was like, man, this guy's awesome because he looks unbelievable. He looks like a bodybuilder. I mean, bigger than any other professional wrestlers that I knew. And just seeing him when I first met him and stuff, and seeing him train, like, he's just an impressive athlete. So I honestly, I mean, before I know anybody or know a person, I get really excited to work with good athletes. Someone's got a tremendous physique or tremendous athleticism, what it is, that's exciting for me. I was honestly very excited to work with him first and foremost as a tremendous athlete. I even started working with him before, like, Guardians and stuff was out. So it's like his movie career wasn't like he's this massive movie star where he's like progressing to and he's at now. So I was just excited to work with him as an athlete. And then the icing on the cake is he is honestly like the nicest guy on the planet. And I'm not just saying that, where he's like, people that are nice to you when they have nothing to gain will do things nice for you, and obviously no one's going to see or no one's going to watch or no one's going to know, where it's just very, very clear. I mean, anyone that knows a person, the circle of people in his life, I mean, he's an awesome guy, man. I mean, he's a nicer guy than I am. He really genuinely cares for everybody around him and cares for the well-being of others. So that's the added bonus. I mean, I've worked with people before that are tremendous athletes that I didn't want to spend any more time with after that. So as an added bonus for Dave, I mean, I wouldn't train anybody as much as I train him if he wasn't just, a pleasure to be around football too. So, and honestly, the nice part for me, so it's like if I'm looking at if I consider myself a greatest skill set that I have, if something I've put more time, and I'm not saying it's great, but I've put more time and effort into anything, is like literally comes down to when you get somebody like him, like, what the hell did you deliver on the first session?
Right.
A trainer that's worked with a high-level athlete before, there is always a balance. He's been a meathead longer than I've been a meathead. I say that in the most nice way. I mean, he's been a meathead. I mean, he's been 350 pounds.
Yeah.
And like, he's been a bodybuilder. He's competed. He's been a high-level athlete, whatever, professional athlete. So he's got more meathead experience than I do. So it can't be one of those things where in a session I can't just sit and talk to him about neat sciencey stuff the whole time, where he'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I want to work out. And at the same time, if I don't show him something that has to do with my skill set, it's not hard to beat somebody in the ground but have their whole body hurt and broken along the way. So we had as quick of a conversation and taking notes down of every injury he's ever had, which is extensive. And then basically from there, it's a balance of, I want him to figure out what fits his body, what he's capable of doing and not doing, and then making him work as hard as possible within what he shows me. So what does he actually have, and then what can I give him that he'll tolerate? And so the biggest compliment I'll get ever, and I've been lucky to have this happen a few times, but with him is in the first session, we're literally 20 minutes into the session, and he's asking me if I'm available the rest of the week. And I'm like, sweet, something's going good. And then at the end of the session, he's saying it's the first time that he's had like a pain-free session and looking at his joints and his connective tissue and all that stuff, like literally in 20 plus years. And at the same time, he'll be the first to say that he's like, at the same time, it was the most pain he's ever had in his muscles ever. He's like, look, because he's a tough guy, man. He's gotten the shit beat out of him. He's had professional fights. I mean, he's a lot tougher of a human being than I am. And he'll literally say, he's like, that's the most painful shit ever. Like, it's just the way that you can't escape the pain when we train. So those are about as big of a compliment as I can get. If I can have someone that knows what a brutal workout means in their own context by their own perception and feel of it, and knows that your joints and connective tissue and stuff shouldn't hurt to train hard. So that's what if there's a skill set component, trying to prepare myself so I'm capable of working with someone like that. So knowing how to train someone, find where they can and cannot go and things like that. And then also be able to deliver on the end of that is where I can actually, you got to show up, you got to do something for the first session, and it's got to be appropriate. So he's awesome, man. I mean, it'd be tough, again, not just for him being, it's cool that he's a movie star and all that now, but he's definitely one of my most favorite clients I've ever worked with. For the completeness of an athlete, for someone that has an appreciation for it. Like they occasionally get like a 20-year-old or somebody that wants to work with me and like, oh, this seems overly tedious. Why are you so concerned with this or that? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, bring your joints back to me in 10 years and, you'll understand why. So it's people that have actually been in it. People that kind of need it more have a lot more value to it. And Dave's, I believe he's 49 now. And so for what his body's been through and what he's aware of and what he knows about training, he'd be the first guy that if he did a session with me, he knows more than a lot of people would be like, hey, F off, I'm not getting anything from this or whatever. So that's part of it too, is people that come to you, if they really have a lot of value for what you bring to the table, they're ultimately going to be more fun clients to work with.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's interesting because I had posted a picture of you and Branch Warren the other day on our social media platform because I'm speaking with both of you. And one of the comments was, talk about two completely different training styles. What Branch does and what you do. Like, your training style is unique, and I actually love it. I think it's great with resistance. And I mean, you focus on less weight, more form. I mean, just being proper throughout the lift, the entire range of motion, which I think is brilliant. Why did you adapt the way that you train more than, say, just lift heavy shit up, put heavy shit down?
I mean, if there's one thing that I think I'm just more, I've been drilled into me, and I've learned from smart people, and when I've actually trained with people that actually know how to apply it, I probably am just a little bit more picky with the parameters and principles around which I train, and that's what a lot of people don't do. Is if you have believe me, you preface it like this, I'm not speaking to Branch. I can't speak to him at all. I don't know him personally. I've never actually seen him train in person. But for being a trainer, if I'm going to do something, I apply to myself and I apply to someone else and I apply to someone else and I apply to the 80-year-old or the 20-year-old, it's got to be built on principles because specifics don't work for everyone. Mm-hmm. And what works for one person doesn't work for other people. So I guess some of it's anecdotal. So some of it's for sure everyone I've ever worked out with myself. So when I started training when I was 15 and 16, I was the one leading the workouts and doing all that stuff. And it was the same all the way through college. And everybody I ever worked out with got bigger, faster than me and stronger. I was like, fuck, I hate these guys. I don't, it's very fair to say, based on professional observation as well as me only being myself my whole life, that I have subpar genetics for muscle building. So some of it, of course, came out of necessity. So it's like, if I was blessed with whatever's the best genetics in the world, I find it really, really hard to imagine that I actually would have pursued a better method as much as I can.
Sure.
And honestly, it's kind of, I joke, I would never in a million years say that I'm not concerned about weight in any capacity. What tends to happen is if I use what I would call maybe a little bit more intensive or strict or whatever principles around which I train or build exercises, when you apply those to people, as a result, lots of times people are using less weight, but that's just a result of and not the intention of or the goal of. So I've worked with some people that are insanely strong and have insanely good form, where I don't have to change a whole lot. So my goal is, every bodybuilder knows this. Bodybuilding is an internal sport. If a bodybuilder can squat 800 pounds, but they don't feel it in any muscle in their body, they won't do it. That's not just me. That's a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders do it so they feel something in their muscle, which means the purpose of training is internal. So, my parameters and weight is a part of that. Is I want the most brutally taxing, painful, horrible internal response that I can get from someone. And load is a huge factor to that as well too. It's like people joke, it's like, oh, you don't lift as heavy weights or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm just not strong. So that's why I don't lift heavier weights. But for me, relatively speaking, I've got videos of me deadlifting 600 pounds plus and front squatting close to 400 pounds for reps. And that's not as strong as really actual strong people. But considering I actually figured out I don't have very good genetics and I'm doing it with what I consider pretty okay form, it's really fucking strong for me. And it's really hard for me. I've never literally once, people always say, well, what's more important? Is it more important form or weight or effort or all that? And the answer is yes. It's like if putting on big muscle was easy and doing without joint pathology and injuries and tendinitis, which aren't things that should have to come along with it, that's the hard part. It's hard to push both to the highest level. And I've had people that are fucking brutally strong, and when I impose just this much execution on them, they fucking crumble. I always joke, there's people that think that and maybe there's not people, it's my perception. There's occasionally people that think, oh, he's just tedious and does this, and he doesn't actually train hard. And all those people that think that have one thing in common, and that's they've never trained with me. I've literally, anyone that's ever trained with me, once I actually get them to a point where they have what I consider decent form, acceptable form, they're not going to get injured that day, I will push them as far as humanly possible if that's their goal and if it's applicable. And I've never had someone ask for another set after that. I've literally had people just like crumble and die on the floor and puke and be non-functional for a long period of time. And not that that's necessarily pertinent for them putting on muscle long term, but it's maybe something they have to go through that what they go through and what they can endure will help them put on muscle more long term. I honestly never think about weight. I never think about making it intentionally light. I don't think about, I got to use this weight that's heavy enough so it's hard enough. I just think about weight as another variable that I'm trying to, if appropriate, push as far as possible, again, to make something as internally as hard as possible. Yeah. Because again, if you're trying to change your physique, your focus should always be internal. If you're an athlete that's moving things from A to B, if you're a powerlifter, or if you're a CrossFit professional athlete, where completion is your goal, then you might make the argument that there's times that you should focus on external things, athletes in competition. But if you're a bodybuilder, that should never, ever, ever be your focus. It should always be what kind of internal response am I producing?
I like that. Yeah, that's brilliant, actually. So I got one more question here for you. You said you've done multiple competitions. Any competitions in your future?
Last year the original intent was to do the nationals this year, so qualified for that at the Tampa this past year. And then my wife and I not my wife and I. My wife got pregnant with me.
Nice work.
That was happy.
You played your part.
Yeah, I did the fun part. And so anyway, my daughter is due in a month from now.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
So I'm pretty damn good, man. I've competed when I've worked 70 hours a week and all that kind of stuff. But the only stipulation I've placed on my life is I won't compete when I have a newborn at home. And just because, now we're going to have 3 babies, and it's just, and everybody's different. So there's going to be somebody out there that has competed with a newborn and 3 kids and had a job and their wife. And that's great. They might either have better work ethic or who knows what, but something for me. But for me, the priority is I want to be able to help with the kids and my wife and the baby. And also, we like to have, my wife particularly likes to have the baby in the bedroom with us for the first, 3 to 5 months. Yeah. And there's no consistent sleep with that. And there's this thing in bodybuilding where it's like everybody likes to, pat themselves on the back for how hard they work, which is very important. But at the end of the day, if you're sleeping 2 hours a night, there's no amount of hard work that you can't outwork 2 hours of sleep. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, I'm not competing this year because I'm going to have an infant in the bedroom, and that's the priority for this year, which kind of sucks because I honestly was looking forward to doing nationals because one of my close friends and client, one of the few people I still do a lot for, Josh Vogel, is going to be a light heavy. Very good friends with Hunter Labrada. He's going to be a super heavy. I would have been a heavyweight. And now one of my friends, it's a Redcon athlete. Everyone knows his Instagram handle is the Raging Silverback. Yep. His plans are to do nationals. So if there's one thing that I think is the most fun part about competing, it's competing with friends. So it would have been freaking awesome to do that show, honestly, being in the same class with one of them and doing the same show in 2 different classes with other guys. But no, it's going to be on hold for now. I tell people, for me, competing is like, for the same people that have the mental problems of liking to do liking to run marathons.
Mm-hmm.
Like on paper, running a marathon is the dumbest thing
Yeah.
on the planet. There's no way anyone can explain to me how that's healthy, because it's not. As far as if healthy means doing something optimal for your health, it's not. But I totally get why people run marathons and why they try and beat times every single time, because that's part of hopefully growing and developing as a person is, being able to delay gratification, being able to do things that other people are unwilling to do. And that's why I like bodybuilding. So I like to go through this stupid process, and they're trying to beat times. I'm just trying to beat my previous physique. So because I have no end goal in mind. People always ask, "Oh, you trying to turn pro or do this or that?" I'm like, I could care less. I mean, that's a natural progression. So if I competed long enough, at some point in time, I'm going to have to keep getting better placings, or I'm not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty. Since that's my reasons, I don't really. I would guess I'll probably compete again, but it's honestly not a big deal for me. If for some reason, more important things in life took precedence. So, if my wife and I agreed there was something that was better for our marriage or better for our kids or whatever, and it meant me not competing, I would have no problem, not competing. But I mean, I got the best wife in the world, and my kids love it. My 4-year-old tells me that he doesn't want to have a job when he grows up. He wants to do what I do and just work out, which I think is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
He thinks I don't have a job. He thinks I just work out for a living, which is fucking great. So I'm all in support of that plan for him as well too. So anyway, obviously your kids are little, they want to do whatever you do.
Right.
So anyway, I got the most supportive family in the world. If I ever do compete, my wife would be happy and supportive and all on board. So not to say that would be a limiting factor,
right.
But if it was something that we felt was, it's just not that high on priorities in my life. So I'd love to, because I love it. But as of right now, not this year, and we'll see moving forward. So.
Cool. Very cool stuff. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the t-shirt that you're wearing, because Aaron helped set this up. So Redcon 1 t-shirt. You're a head trainer at Redcon 1, I believe is what it is on the site. So I don't want to get into supplements. We save that for Aaron Singerman podcast. But definitely appreciate you coming on. Hypertrophy Coach on Instagram. Hypertrophycoach.com is the website. There's a subscription service. I think it's $9.95 a month where they can get content. And you've heard Joe say that he actually goes and pays people for content. So I mean, that's not beneath you, which is phenomenal. Great content at your site, so people can check that out. Dude, keep it going. I hope next time, don't cut the beard. At least wait till the baby comes. Let the beard, make it a baby beard. Let it go.
So I joke that, man, I have a very specific style, and it's called either what's free or what my wife likes. So Aaron is supplying my wardrobe at this point in time, and whatever my wife likes goes. So that's the whole reason the beard came in the first place. She's like, "Hey, you want to grow it out?" And
she suggested it. All right.
She suggested it, yeah. So she was like, "Oh, try and grow it out." I'm lazy as hell, so I always had some stubble or something going on. And she's like, "Why don't you grow it out?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then when I was getting ready to compete in Tampa, I was going to shave it, because not that it's a big deal, but in the bodybuilding world, they actually prefer that you shave. But
everything.
She's pretty relaxed, but she was actually right before the show. She's like, "Please don't shave it. I love it." And I was like, "Fuck, do I appease the judges or I appease my wife?" Which was an easy decision, and I left the beard on. And arguably, the funny thing is, I joke, I think people remember my beard from competing, more than not that I was the first person to do that, but not a whole lot of people compete with beards. And I joke too, since I competed and have a beard, everyone and their moms compares me to Guy Cicerino.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, we don't look. No one said that ever once in our entire lives before I didn't have a beard and he didn't have a beard. But as soon as you're a dude that has muscle and you have a beard, and we're the only two dudes that have beards and muscle, then we got to be the same guy apparently. But yeah, so anyway, that's the beard won't be going anywhere soon, because the wife really likes it. So
good.
Whatever she likes goes. If you ever see it shaved, it means she got tired of it, and that's when it'll go. So.
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff on this podcast in terms of education, but happy wife, happy life might be the biggest takeaway here.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Congratulations, brother. You're gonna have 3 under 4. That actually might be your toughest test to date versus all these competitions that you had. So good luck with that. Yeah. Congratulations. Appreciate you coming on, bud.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
What makes a great athlete? Is it in the intense mental and physical training? Is it hitting the game-winning shot? Is it scoring the go-ahead goal? Is it the countless hours of practicing when the cameras aren't on and no one is watching? Everyone is their own athlete. What makes you great is your preparation and determination to reach your goals. Your body is fueled by your desire and quest to push beyond limits. Define your inner great athlete with the Clinical Edge series.
All right, guys, that is it. That is Hypertrophy Coach Joe Bennet. He's at Hypertrophy Coach on Instagram. You heard it. I mean, this dude knows his stuff. He also can grow an immaculate beard, which I didn't talk about in the opening. And I actually had a big one for the opening and the closing, and I shaved it before this. But I still have something going on here. My new look is working really well in case anybody cares. But anyway, it's at Hypertrophy Coach on Instagram. We are at Fit Informant on Instagram, at Fit Informant on Twitter, Facebook.com/Fitness Informant. Obviously, you guys know our website, fitnessinformant.com. Do us a favor and subscribe on iTunes. If you're listening on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. If it's here at YouTube, subscribe. If there's an opportunity to rate and review us, would love to have that too. It gives us an opportunity to creep up in these people's little algorithms and the podcast platforms and get in the front of more people. Next time on the show, former WWE superstar. He's a WWE Intercontinental Champion. He was with the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment, for a long time. Decided to walk away from the company back in 2016, I believe it was, 2017, after a WrestleMania stint. Started his own supplement company called Feed Me More Nutrition. Ryback Reeves, no more commonly known as Ryback on the WWE television, started Feed Me More Nutrition. He's going to be on the podcast next time talking about Feed Me More Nutrition, talking about his time in WWE and why he made the transition away from WWE into the world of sports nutrition, and a little bit of wrestling talk, since that's where I came from in the world. And will he be back on TV soon with the WWE? Find out all that out and more on the next episode, which will be episode 9. This was episode 8, so I said episode 7 in the opening, my bad. Episode 8, Hypertrophy Coach. Episode 9 will feature Ryback, former WWE wrestler and the CEO of Feed Me More Nutrition. Again, fitnessinformant.com for all the reviews, supplement news, and more. Also, huge supplement deals. Until next time, we hope you took some knowledge away from Hypertrophy Coach Joe Bennet. You're going to apply it in your fitness lifestyle. You're going to be fit. You're going to be a better version of yourself, and you're going to be happy, because that is the most important thing, folks. Be happy. Be happy with your lives. Be happy with your progress, and be happy with those around you. Be kind to one another. Until next time, I'm fitnessinformant.com president Ryan Buckeye. Everybody, take care.